Following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys!
This is Mick Shots, streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, here are Bill Jones, Savannah Humoller, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
All right, here we go. 3 out of 4 ain't bad today. Bill Jones, DNP's today with an illness. It seems to be going around this building of late. But we are here, Everson Walls.
I feel great.
Savannah Humoller, and myself, Mickey Spagnola, here on Mick Shots on a Wednesday. But there's no football players on the football field.
What's going on, dude?
And practice is supposed to start right now, so I'm guessing they are indoors.
I would assume so.
It's not
chilly
the
out.
weather, I don't think.
It's not bad. It's
What is it, maybe in the 40s now?
No, it's almost up to the upper 50s.
50s.
And the wind is warm. The wind is warm. It's not a cold breeze at all.
So you know what's going on, right?
What's going on?
We got secrets.
What are you talking about? What does that mean?
That means he doesn't want anybody watching practice that's not supposed to be watching
okay.
practice.
I got you.
It's
I would
playoffs.
Nice.
There you
gotta
go.
keep it all locked in
That is
somewhere.
exactly
you know?
right, Savannah.
The old school Redskins would come to town, and we would go to Washington, and we had to buy out the entire side of the Holiday. The 8 Days Inn.
It was a Days Inn.
The Days Inn Hotel.
Yeah.
They bought out the entire
Really?
side.
The second floor, because it opened up
Yeah.
to the.
Wait, they did this for what reason?
For Washington Week.
They didn't trust
Because they didn't
the
trust
then Redskins.
Yeah. Well, it was George Allen's fault,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
George Allen, old school coach for the Redskins. We're saying Redskins because that's what they were at the time. And he was a cheat. Let's just say what it was. He was a cheat. And when it came to the Cowboys-Redskins rivalry, I think both of them were cheating. I think we just didn't hear much about it on the Cowboys
On the
side.
other side,
Yeah.
right? Tex didn't trust him, so he bought out the second
Bought out the
floor.
entire side. And
Yeah.
then you would have security was walking
Yeah.
back and forth on the second floor, making sure no one tried to sneak up and video our practices.
Not with any other team, just Washington.
Just Washington. As if Philly was above board.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. So the Cowboys are indoors practicing today. And speaking of practice, Savannah, why don't we give a little
Let's do
Cowboys injury update?
Let's do it. We were in the press conference earlier with Mike McCarthy, and obviously there's a few people that were in question for this week. Zach Martin, who was out with an illness against the Commanders, he is back in the facility today. He is feeling better. He will be participating in practice today. He's improved, but I guess there are a couple staff members who Mike quoted, they don't count out with illness today.
Just keep them away.
That's they don't count. He's definitely ill, but he'll be. He's not playing.
Yeah. Tyler Smith, limited, and Stephon Gilmore, he will rehab Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the hope is to have him line up on Saturday.
And kind of see what he can do, get him to the game the best they can. And so with the shoulder injury that he suffered, so he'll, continue rehabbing, and you just want him to be ready to play in the game. Yeah, and it's good news on Tyler that he's going to be limited. So he was somewhat limited last week and didn't play, so we'll see what he's able to do. But the good thing about him being limited, and then last week, and then Zach on his normal schedule, not practicing
And
on
the
Thursday.
quad is good. Right?
On
Zach Martin.
No, he was ill, remember?
I know he was ill, but I'm still.
Because he had
worried
that
about
quad
the
thing
quad
going
injury.
Yeah, they haven't. I haven't heard
mentioned
that
that.
come up. No.
Okay.
And the good thing about that is that T.J. Bass and Brock Hoffman were able to practice almost fully last week. So when they had to play in the game, they were prepared, which is normally that doesn't happen, right? Those guys get a handful of snaps normally. You don't know what that's like because you probably never got any snaps off in practice, right?
No. Tom didn't play that crap. We didn't do that.
So anyway, I would imagine that if Tyler's limited, then T.J. Bass will get a share of the snaps, and Zach will get what he normally gets, but that's not a lot because they don't want to wear him out. So Brock Hoffman will get more. And, and then Hoffman also, by the way, if Zach, whatever Zach was getting, he would be getting backup snaps at center because he is the backup center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's both.
Okay. Did not know that.
So, So anyway, that's kind of a injury update. I did notice that, if I can find it in all my scribbles here, the Packers have a couple things going on. Their leading receiver, Romeo Doubs, injured his chest in the game this past Sunday. He ended up going to the hospital, but he was released the next day or that night.
And he's their leading receiver.
He's their leading receiver. And then he's got 2nd leading receiver, 59 catches for 674 yards, 8 touchdowns. So he's kind of the guy they go to. Also, Christian Watson, Bills guy, has missed the last 5 games with a hamstring.
Okay.
So his production, obviously, this year has gone down significantly. But if you remember,
Jordan Love is still playing well.
Yeah, and if you remember last year, Watson had a big day against the Cowboys in that 31-28 overtime victory. And running back A.J. Dillon has these two don't go together, a thumb and stinger. So I guess that's 2 separate things. He missed the last game, and so did Isaiah McDuffie, concussion, neck. So we'll see how those go when we get an injury report today. But from a health standpoint, that's not too bad this time of the season when the injuries do pile up, especially after 17 games and going for 18 games. So we'll see how this turns out. I also saw another little note. The NFLPA had their players vote for their all-pro team. Very, very interesting. Did you see that?
No,
Savannah?
I did not. What were the results?
So here's the significant ones for the Cowboys. Obviously, Deron Bland was one of the 2 starting cornerbacks on their all-pro team. The other one was Patrick Surtain. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb was one of the wide receivers with Tyreek Hill. But I thought from a player vote, this one was most interesting. The starting guards, Tyler Smith and Zach Martin.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
The players knew. The players knew what Tyler Smith was doing this year. Obviously, Brandon Aubrey was the kicker. So that's how the players kind of voted on, what's happening with this team. So thought we'd talk a little. We did it yesterday. I can't remember if it was what you were worried about going into this game, but Mike McCarthy even mentioned it today in his press conference when he was talking about, he said, this is what it's all about, stopping the run, and it is every week. And if you noticed...
especially come playoff time.
Right. The Packers have been running the ball pretty well these last 3 weeks. So that was one of his concerns, and I don't know. It was my concern. I don't know about you guys.
Mine was penalties.
That's right.
And that was something that really got me. We've been doing very well, if I'm not mistaken, the last 3 games, especially this last game. But, when you look at the caliber of play of who we're playing against, if you're not pressured that much, then you won't get many penalties.
Right.
That's why I liked our position with the Detroit game because we didn't have a lot of penalties in that game. Okay, and they had some, but we didn't have a lot that really hurt us that much. We kind of trended downward in that regard. So you can see it. There's an emphasis there on not having as many penalties from the Dallas Cowboys side.
And you'll be glad to know that we have some numbers to back up your perception.
Okay.
So in the victory over Philadelphia, for what it's worth, they had well, let's go back one more.
Are we talking about
The Cowboys penalties.
Okay.
Yeah. They had 9 against Seattle,
Yeesh.
7
That
against
was the bottom.
Philadelphia, and then it went down in the last 4 games, even though 2 of them were losses, 5 for 48 in Buffalo, 6 for 38 in Miami, 5 for 34 against Detroit, and then this last game only 2 for 20 yards.
Very minimal. Very minimal. I like that. Yeah.
So that was one of the things that got mentioned sort of in the walk-off, and McCarthy was pretty happy about that.
And you should be,
cleaned it up.
because you're talking about, we've got enough issues right now trying to stop the run. I mean, we don't need anything to compound that.
Right.
And we haven't compounded on that so far. So that's a good thing. We deal with one problem at a time, okay? We got the penalties. Now we're trying to work on stopping the run, and we're not having to deal with 2 problems at once.
Also, speaking of the run, he mentioned that he thought Hankins did well in the game, although they regulated his snaps, so
Okay.
they didn't want to overdo it.
between him and Mozzie, I assume?
Yeah. I guess I could have looked that up, huh? As you guys talk amongst yourselves.
Well,
What
one
are you
thing,
looking up?
I was going to look up how many snaps he had in the game.
Hankins versus Mozzie. One of the things that I wanted to bring up was Micah Parsons. And I believe it's 48 now consecutive quarters without a holding call.
Wow. That's not
And
good.
this has been people on Twitter
That
have
is not good.
been reaching out about it. I mean, I see texts coming in with questions about it, and it's almost like, that streak's lasting longer than Brandon Aubrey's did.
That's not cool at all.
No.
No, that is not cool. You're talking about the number one pressure defender, a
Correct.
rusher. The number one pressure rusher. He hadn't gotten any holding calls.
In 48 consecutive
Come on, man.
quarters.
That's just ridiculous. That makes no sense at all. And no matter how much he fusses, it's almost like they close their ears and eyes to it. Because I saw him in the other guy's face the other day pleading with him. Hey, the guys are holding me, and I don't know what he's saying back to him, but it doesn't amount worth the crap if you ain't throwing flags.
Right. And we're talking, no holding calls, if you can believe that.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. And it just continued. And by the way, it was pointed out, I think someone did when we on the walk-off, that the head referee would be Ron Tolbert for this game.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to look up his history and how
I heard
he
that they were
calls-
kind of they were flag happy.
Tolbert's crew.
Yeah.
But see, now what happens is it's the all-star crews for
Okay.
the playoffs.
Okay.
So they kind of get the best guys to do the other positions, not totally his crew.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think there's a kind of a thinking in the NFL that whoever the guys that are helping the officials, they follow the lead of the head referee.
Yeah.
So probably however he goes
Right.
through a season, that's probably what will influence his guys. So we'll see if he can see penalties or
You
not.
got
Holding,
to look
right?
up that history, man. We got to find out that history.
Look at that crew and see
Yeah,
how
I
many.
gotta find out
if they
that
called
crew.
any
Right.
offensive holding calls, right? Goodness gracious. Well, and we talked about yesterday the influence of penalties, especially if they're on your offense. We talked about how in the championship game, the college championship game, Washington, it seemed like every time they took 2 steps forward, they ended up taking 3 steps back
Absolutely.
with
a penalty.
Well, number one, the pressure was about 4 or 5 steps into his backfield as well. And every time he's throwing it, he never threw it comfortably off his back foot. Every time he's throwing the ball, it's like, hey, he just kind of flipped it out there because someone was either in his face here, he's got to flip it under, or if they're down here at his feet, he's flipping it over. So, no, I think they said his Penix's stock may have dropped during the game I thought it pretty much it was the same. You could just see that he was under duress the entire time.
Right.
And I was a bit impressed on how he was able to get the ball off, really, when it comes down to it.
Not only that, but he was hurting out there. You could tell
Yes.
he was in pain, and
They
he was
should
like,
have
"I
put
am
him-
staying in this game, and I'm
I would
finishing
not
this
have
game."
let him finish that game. I
Yeah.
would not have let him
Well,
finish
that
that
might
game.
say something to who the backup was.
Right.
Was. Plus, Coburn,
We didn't
The
evaluate who
backup
he
can't be
was.
that bad.
quarterbacks are stubborn, right? They don't want to come out. Well, to finish on this running, the Cowboys have done a pretty good job over this last month. If you look at, they held Seattle, which likes to run the ball, to 72 yards rushing. Philadelphia 106, and that's when you add in what the quarterback's going to do, that's reasonable. The problem down the stretch was Buffalo, where they gave up the 266, but they also ran it 49 times. But they averaged 5.4. They held Miami to 91, Detroit to 125 on 31 carries, so that's just 4 yards a carry. And then in this last game, and I'm sure Washington wanted to do it, 50 yards rushing, and they only ran the ball 17 times.
Well, now, a lot of that was dictated by our offense.
Right.
Because we were pretty much moving the ball, and a lot of times it was in catch-up mode by the opposition. So they could have been running the ball a little bit more because the game got a little bit wide open at that time. Miami's game didn't start off like that. It started off where Miami was in control.
Right.
But then once we saw that we had to score and the game became a passing game, everybody abandoned the running game. And now you could say that in a couple of those games, to figure out your numbers, Spags.
I wanted to look up, and I can do it when we come back from the break, but when in the regular season game last year against Green Bay, I had this idea, the one they won 31-28, that they ran the ball pretty well against the Cowboys, and when we return on Mick Shots. Hopefully I'll be able to find that for you here on DallasCowboys.com.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Did you know that responding to one spam call can lead to more? Or that the IRS would never ask for your social security number on the phone? Beat scammers at their own game by subscribing to AARP Fraud Watch Network alerts and texts. At aarp.org/beatscammerstx, you can sign up to receive information that helps you recognize and avoid the latest scams. That's aarp.org/beatscammerstx.
To Mick Shots.
K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing, the official roofer of the Dallas Cowboys. Mickey, did you find what you were looking for?
I did. So in the Packers' 31-28 overtime victory against the Cowboys last year during the regular season, the Packers ran the ball 39 times for 207 yards.
Dang.
So I would imagine the Cowboys will be very focused on stopping the run.
Yeah, every time we bring up failures of the Cowboys in postseason, the running game seems to coincide with that. Anytime we give up a lot of yards running, it seems to be our doom and our downfall for the playoffs. So we got to make sure we understand that.
So, and Savannah brought this up on Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. They're two running backs that we probably need to point out. Do you have their season stats there right in front of you?
Right now I have Aaron Jones, so let me pull his everything from the season. But in his last game against the Bears, he averaged 5 yards per carry. He had 111 rushing yards, 22 attempts, no rushing touchdowns. And overall this season, let's see, 656 yards.
Now, he was injured this year, wasn't he? I don't know if he played the entire season.
Let me see.
What you doing over there, Spags?
I was getting ready to sneeze, and I think I knocked out my headset. But other than that,
I don't know about injuries. It does say that he has played since September 10th, and that was when he was, it was like a couple games, 18 yards, 35 yards, 29. So he may have been
They weren't
not
using
in
him.
his
well,
They weren't using him.
they used both guys.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Aaron Jones ended up with 656 yards rushing, and A.J. Dillon 613 yards. But I thought what was significant was that in the last 3 games, they've Aaron Jones has run for 358 yards in the last 3 games, and Dillon 169 yards in the last 3 games. So if you add that up, it looks like it's about 427 yards between the two of them. So they've run the ball pretty well in the last 3 games.
So you got to look at their offensive line. Then they must be clicking really well together.
And
because
probably
these are
better
games
than
that they
what
needed.
it was previously.
Yes.
So in the last 3 games, and it was against Carolina, the team ran for 162, against Minnesota 177, and against the Bears 124. So
And during that time, Jordan Love has been playing some of his best football.
yeah. So and he's played better too, and probably coincides with what's been going on out there. So yeah. That's one of the things the Cowboys definitely have to concentrate on because, as we know, the last 2 times they were eliminated in the playoffs by San Francisco. San Francisco ran for more than 100 yards in both of those games. And then if we go back to 2018 when they got beat by the Rams.
Yeah. Oh wow!
I think
that
it sticks in my mind that it was
bad.
273.
That was bad. Yeah, by a guy that we didn't
came
even
off
know.
the bench, right? It came off the couch, not the bench, the couch, right? So yeah, being able to stop the run is going to be vital in this game, and that normally happens. When you're on the road, you want to be able to run the ball, even though it's indoors.
You got to take the crowd out of the game,
right? Yeah,
right,
exactly. And that was another topic that came up today, the home crowd. I see you guys want a whiteout. Is that what I heard?
We are doing a whiteout. Wear white. We're going to have white towels on all of the seats for everybody. And we're bringing the energy. Cowboys fans, bring the energy.
Hopefully
they brought a lot of energy the last game. That was nice. It was exciting, too, for that game. That was Detroit game had a lot of energy.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of energy.
I just hope that green doesn't really show up with all the white out there, because
the big cheese block.
As I keep saying, those people move down here. Right?
Oh yeah, they're going to be here. They're going to represent very well,
and
they have a proud tradition in Green Bay.
So let me ask you: does the home crowd do anything for you when you're at the game?
It does. Well, first of all, it affects the communication by the opponents. It affects their communication big time. And it's just human nature. People ask me a question. You've asked me the question about, playing away from home versus on the road. First of all, you love to kick somebody's ass at their place. That's always a nice little present. But at the same time, when you go there, you better be ready because they are going to bring everything. First of all, people talking bad about you. You can hear them talking bad about you in the stands. You can hear them when you come out. You can tell that those cheers are not for you. You can try to fool yourself.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they're cheering for me. No. You can't even fool yourself in that regard. You know whose side the fans are on. And if you're weak enough, they'll get to you. If you're weak enough, they'll get to you. As a team, if you're weak enough, then they will break you down. That's why I always wanted this team to not be front runners. I want them to be able to go win wherever they need to win. That's the way it was back in the 80s with the Cowboys. That's the way it was in the 90s when I was with the Giants. I know that feeling. And you know when you step into the stadium if it's going to affect you or not. You can tell sometimes when the Cowboys step into a hostile environment that they are affected by it.
Right.
You can also tell when the opponents come into AT&T Stadium that they are affected by it.
Especially, I would imagine, offensively, right? With the snap count and trying to make play calls at the line of scrimmage.
It seems to affect everything. It seems to affect the play calls by the referee. It seems like the referees are affected by home field. They are. They're just human. Basketball, football, it doesn't matter.
Especially basketball.
Yeah, especially basketball.
So
well, they're right there. They're right there. Like,
did you notice?
Come on, ref, what are you doing?
Did you notice it when you were playing basketball?
What do you mean?
The crowd, if you were at an away game.
No, not basketball. Basketball is a different sport. It's not so physical.
Yeah.
When you're talking football, you got the crowd, then you got somebody trying to knock your head off. That's a whole different story. In basketball, it's basketball. What you gonna do? You foul me? Okay. My jump is still pretty. My jump is still butter.
So playing junior high basketball, I think the only time I realized the crowd was there when I was sitting wherever you sit to check into the game, and somebody stuck a pin in my shorts from behind.
Wow.
Stop.
Yes.
Well, see, they would only pick on you like that, Spags, because they know you won't react.
Little guy was going to go in there, and they figured, this guy's got a lot of
energy. One of the brothers would turn around and have some action. You might not. Well, they knew who to do like that.
There were a lot of brothers in the crowd, by the way, where we were playing. But that was the one time I said, oh, this is serious, right? When we played adult hockey and we played our charity challenge game, the one game that we played at the AAC, I was telling Savannah about it, and there was 13,000 people there for charity. Right?
Wow.
And when
that's impressive.
When you're on the ice skating,
that's impressive.
The only time I could hear the crowd is like anticipating something good was going to happen. Right.
Like it's about to go in the goal.
Right. You better hurry up. Something's getting, But that was the only time. But yeah, I was just wondering. Because I didn't play enough.
But you could tell that it affects the Cowboys. You can tell it affects other teams because we are extremely aggressive at home, and we don't show that aggression. I'm talking defensively on the road. Right. We are extremely aggressive at home. I mean, Jordan Lewis making the play he made, Donovan Wilson, playing his butt off at home. Those are the kind of things we need. That same anticipation, that same positivity, because when you're on the road, you're more pessimistic. When you're at home, the optimism just reigns from everywhere. Right. You see what I'm saying? Right. When you're on the road, you have to create your optimism. That means you have to make a play even when everyone's against you. It takes a tough mentality.
So maybe that's why they played so well in Washington this past Sunday, because it was a home crowd.
A home crowd. They could feel it. We could hear it. We could hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So again. Well, I didn't ask you. Did you ever play sports that you were in front of a crowd?
Did you play sports?
I did. I played soccer.
Oh, okay.
Played soccer. I don't like running now because of it.
I never asked
so I won't
run.
And also I did because obviously I'm from San Diego, surfing.
Oh yes.
Yes, would go out in the morning, go surf.
So there'd be no crowd there.
So no crowd on the beach really.
Yeah,
that was more of a peaceful type of thing. But soccer, yes, you obviously have the crowd, but we had a really, really great home stadium, and our crowd support was next level, just our home team. But
no, wait a minute. You said stadium. This was high school? Mm-hmm. You had a high school soccer?
Like huge, pretty big facility out there in Carlsbad, California.
It's California, man.
Yeah.
This
is a big old public school, very nice
Texas
place.
Soccer. No, this is California.
I didn't know anything about soccer till I got to college because St. Louis was a big soccer hub, and St. Louis U, great soccer teams, right? But the high schools all played soccer, and I got to. You know what? I don't think I ever played soccer. I don't even know if we ever had a soccer ball, right? The only soccer we would have done is in the street. And
Berkner, if I'm not mistaken, Berkner High School was good at soccer back in the 70s and 80s.
Right. Mm-hmm. So when we were in college, the intramural soccer was a pretty high level because all those kids from St. Louis knew how to play, right? And then I ended up doing, I was officiating intramurals, and when we got to soccer, and they knew I didn't know, it's like you just called the lines on the outside. Who got the ball, who gets the ball after it goes out of bounds.
The only soccer I played was, my mom was, she was at this camp, and I guess she was a camp mother or whatever, so I needed a job for the summer. So then they hired me to hang out with the kids, and so soccer was one of our activities. So we could waste time, have nothing else to do before lunch. And I remember beating up on the kids. I don't know what got into me. I got a little too,
a little aggressive.
A little aggressive, man. We
started
getting into the kids. They started kicking me. They started kicking the ball. They were kicking me. So I was not a good camp. Whatever. I wasn't a good camp worker at all.
All right, and you know what? When you listen to Mick Shots, you get soccer talk too, by the way, and we'll return with a little bit more on these Green Bay Packers and the Cowboys in the playoffs that they've met this coming time for the 9th time in the playoffs here on Mick Shots.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Did you know that responding to one spam call can lead to more? Or that the IRS would never ask for your social security number on the phone? Beat scammers at their own game by subscribing to AARP Fraud Watch Network alerts and texts. At aarp.org/beatscammerstx, you can sign up to receive information that helps you recognize and avoid the latest scams. That's aarp.org/beatscammerstx.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Back to Mick Shots.
You know the drill, Cowboys Nation. White out AT&T Stadium this weekend. Show up for our boys as they take on the Green Bay Packers in the 2023 NFL wildcard round in an all-white game day outfit. Head to a pro shop near you or log on to shop.dallascowboys.com, a Fanatics experience to find your whiteout gear.
Very nice. All right. Continue on this Green Bay Packer subject. This will be the 9th time the Cowboys have played the Packers in the playoffs. Guess what the overall record is for the two teams?
Tell us.
4-4.
There you go.
4-4. Oh my
I got
gosh.
it right. Thank you, teacher.
And that started with the Cowboys losing the first two meetings in the NFC title games in 1966 at the Cotton Bowl and 1967 at the Ice Bowl or in Green Bay at Lambeau Field. The Packers, and then they met four times and consecutively. And three times consecutively, and the one time when Everson was playing in '82, right? The tournament.
That's right.
So the Cowboys beat them four times in a row, and then the Packers have won the last two meetings for 4-4. But how's this for streaks? Since November 15th of 2009, the Packers have won 9 of the last meetings with the Cowboys, and that includes the 2 playoff games.
Jeez.
But prior to that, to show you how unbalanced this whole thing was, Dallas won 11 of 13 meetings against the Packers from 1991 through 2008, and 8 straight from 91 to 96. The Packers got very tired of having to play the Cowboys in the playoffs in the 90s.
And they would play here.
And they played always here. Why we always got to play there? And then they finally, that streak of home games against the Packers was broken in 1997 when the Cowboys went there and got clobbered. And I believe they were 6-5 at that point, and they did not win another game, leading to Barry Switzer getting fired. So it was a downhill run there, and they got clobbered in that game at Lambeau, and it was so cold. I remember that. Not Ice Bowl cold, but so cold enough.
Cold enough.
Right? So at least, though, it's kind of even, and this will be the 9th playoff game against these two teams.
So, Everson, yesterday I was telling Mickey, one of my very good family friends growing up from Carlsbad, California, he was a wide receiver for the Packers when they won the Super Bowl here with Mike McCarthy in the 2010-11 season.
Yes.
His name's Brett Swain. So I texted him yesterday. I said, can't believe we're playing the Pack this weekend in Dallas. And he said, 2 world-class organizations ran by great people. Cowboys might have this in the bag. So
It's hard for him to say that.
it's hard for him to say that with a Super Bowl ring, but you know, it's great to see. But I posed this question yesterday to you guys. Playoff games, which playoff game stands out in your mind? Just one that is like, that is the one that I always think about when I'm thinking about the playoffs. Anyone that was just very apparent.
Mine is a negative.
Let's start here. How many? 3 playoff games? 4?
What?
Playoff games in your career with the Cowboys?
With the Cowboys, yeah.
81, 82, 83, 85, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I wasn't in this game. No, this is just as a fan.
Okay.
I just remember I thought that this was going to be Romo's year to go to the Super Bowl. They had everything on lockdown. They had such a good team, good running game and everything. It was when they lost to the New York Giants.
2007 season.
13-3, right?
Yes.
And all I remember.
And a first-round bye, by the way.
Yes. And it ended up being not the Cowboys' year. It ended up being the Giants' year, because then they went from Dallas and then they went to beat Green Bay, in Green Bay, Brett Favre. I just remember sitting on the couch, and my best friend was like, Brett Favre is going to throw an interception. They're going to lose this game. And sure enough, right after it came out of his mouth, Brett did what Brett does.
At the end, right?
Yeah, right at the end.
Because they were driving.
They were driving, and he throws out this. He just threw it out there. That was so crazy. But before that, I always remember Patrick Creighton. I love Creighton. He was a hell of a player. But when he missed that ball, it was a quick slant going across the middle. A la Tyreek Hill, running too fast for his hands, and it slipped through his hands. That would have been a touchdown.
Yes.
And that would have iced the game. I believe that would have iced the game if he would have scored that. I really felt bad for Cowboy fans at that time because I wasn't all the way sold back in after retiring and things of that nature. But my family was. And, boy, that hurt everybody in the house.
So I remember that play, and I can't remember if Troy Aikman was doing the game or if he had just mentioned this about that play to Creighton. He goes, he catches that ball, he's going to hit his head on the crossbar.
That's right. I mean, it was wide open. There was no one there, and I don't know if I keep trying to, you want to give a guy some grace. And maybe threw it too hard or whatever. Perfect pass, and he caught. He was our Mr. Reliable.
Right.
He was our Mr. Reliable on third downs all year long from the slot, and that was his moment.
And the other part of that game, Terrell Owens played with a high ankle sprain, and he was not Terrell Owens.
Well, that's why we needed Creighton. That's why we needed him, and we leaned on him more so that game than in the other.
Remember, they tried to just run in the first half, and they ran for 100 yards the first half, but they only scored 14 points.
Right.
And they just got away from what they were good at, meaning throwing the football. But then Owens he was just a shadow of himself in that game.
You have to give the Giants credit in that game. They had a very good defense that kind of kept Eli and the Giants in every game. And they were that kind of like what we have now, but a little bit better, bend but don't break. They weren't dominating.
No.
But they made the plays they needed to make at the time. And they got a little luck.
The other thing I remember about it was that second half, they decided that Tony Romo could beat him by himself, and they decided, okay, we're going to put pressure on him, but they did it with their front four.
Right.
They did it with
and that's why they were good. That front four was good. That was Strahan, right?
Yeah.
God, they had a couple other really solid players in there that were doing this all year long. So it was a team that was very unique and was put together very well, and I think that's the only team that they favor over the 1990 Giants team that I was on. That team from that year, that's one of the favorite Giants favorite teams that the Giants had in their organization.
So I realized when I was thinking about games, and I mentioned that they've played the Packers 8 times. I saw the first 2 times on television because at the time I grew up in Chicago, but I was not a Bears fan. I was a Packers fan, right? So I watched those 2 games intensely. And really the only other games they played in the playoffs against the Packers, I would have missed the 82 one. I don't know what I was doing, but I didn't watch it on TV. It wasn't a priority. But everyone after that I've seen. But the first 2 with the Packers looking like they're getting ready to lose on the last play of each of those games. The Ice Bowl, I can remember sitting there, and when Bart Starr came out.
That's right, you are old.
I am.
I forgot how old you are.
I was watching it. I can tell you exactly where I was sitting there watching it with my father, and it's 17-14, and they got the ball on the 1-yard line, the Packers do, and there's 16 seconds left to go. They do not have a timeout. And I'm sitting there going, okay, it's really hard to throw the ball. If they run and don't score, they're going to lose. You got to kick the field goal, right? I'm telling my dad, you got to kick the field goal. So I was a teenager, early teenage years. And I'm sitting there going, oh, no, they're going to snap the ball and run it. And it was like, and then they scored, right? Yeah. With, I think there was, the play took like 2 seconds or whatever was left in the game. But it was minus 13. That's why they called it the Ice Ball. And I was reading up on it. And by the time they got to 16 seconds left, and it was inside the 1, it was minus 18, by the way. And the 2 previous plays to that, they didn't get a yard. They didn't move it. And so they score on basically what was going to – because if they don't score, the game's over. Yeah. Right?
Right.
The Cowboys win. And to this day, and I remember one of the last interviews I did with Tex Schramm when he was retiring from the Cowboys, we were talking about different things, and I brought up the Ice Bowl, and he goes – with his real gruff voice that he'd talk with, he goes, well, That was like the dumbest call I've ever seen in football, going for the touchdown. You got to kick the ball and get a field goal and go into overtime, right? He was still butthurt by that play, right? It was pretty amazing.
They're still trying to take credit for who made the block.
Right.
You tell me, since you're the fan, who made the block? Was it Kramer? Or it was another. Who was the other guy? It was an argument.
I thought it was. I mean, Ken Bowman was the center. I thought he made one of the key blocks in there, but Kramer got the credit, or he took the credit.
Yeah,
right?
he took the credit
to opening the hole. It was a quarterback sneak by Bart Starr.
They go into their graves with this, Savannah.
Yeah,
I made the block. No, you made. I made the block. No, I made the block.
I'm gonna look up the highlights for this game, the Ice Bowl.
And I'll guarantee you, no one expected Bart Starr to run with the ball.
No.
But they couldn't get any footing because it was frozen.
It was ice.
The field was frozen, so it was easier for the quarterback just to lunge forward after he got the snap. The other game would have been the 1994 season NFC title game at San Francisco. The Cowboys got beat 38-28. Another rainy, misty, soggy field. And what impressed me the most, so they're two-time Super Bowl champs, right? 92, 93. 94, San Francisco had home field advantage. The Cowboys finished 12-4. They finished 13-3. And the first, basically 3 times the Cowboys had the ball, Troy Aikman on the third play of the game gets intercepted, returned for a touchdown. On the next possession, on the third play of the possession, Michael Irvin catches a pass. He gets hit. They fumble. San Francisco recovers it and scores a touchdown. And then on the ensuing kickoff, Kevin Williams returns it like 22 yards, fumbles, and sets up their third touchdown.
You think that haunts him to today?
So
yeah.
with like
that keeps him up at night still.
6 minutes gone in the game, it's 21-0 already, right? And they fought back, got it to 38-28. And they're driving inside. They're about the 43-yard line. They're driving inside San Francisco territory, and Troy throws a honey of a pass to Michael Irvin. Dion comes over the top and chops Michael's arms out. No interference call. It's going to be a catch, and he's going to be inside the 5-yard line. And I guarantee you, had they scored that touchdown and got it to within 3, they stopped San Francisco on the next possession, and they couldn't deal with the Cowboys' offense in that game.
That is the only time I have ever seen Deion Sanders look beaten.
Right?
The only time I've ever seen him look beaten in his career. And that's when you knew that Michael Irvin was a savage, because he wore him out the entire game, because as they're coming back, he's the target.
Oh, yeah.
He's the target every time. It's like CD.
Of course.
And they've had Dion on him the entire game.
The second half. Because what they did, the first half, what they did was they thought they can single Elvin Harper with Dion, take him out of the game, and double Michael. And it wasn't working.
Nope.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, Dion, you got to cover Michael. And that wasn't working. Aikman ended up throwing for 380 yards. Steve Young, 155, right? I mean, all the statistics were in the Cowboys' favor. But after getting behind 21-0, I remember going down to the field. There was a couple minutes to go. The Cowboys were out of timeouts. They were beaten. Emmett, I think, was out of the game. He had a hamstring. Larry Allen couldn't go. They had to put a backup in for him. It was like, Washington crossing the Delaware, But they were still, to the last second, throwing the ball, trying to catch up when they were 10 points down, right? And I thought it was the most valiant thing I'd ever seen. And it taught me a lesson about the heart of a champion, because they weren't going to give in. And to this day, Troy did a recent interview I was reading. They quoted him. He said it's the game I'm most proud of, because they didn't quit.
Wow.
Yeah. And just sitting in the end zone, I remember getting chills watching this. Like, my God, this thing's over with, but it's muddy. Everybody's beat up, and they're still trying when all was lost. So that one will always stick in my mind.
Losses can be redeeming.
Right?
Yeah. They can.
And so then they returned the next year and
spanked that booty
and won the Super Bowl. So beat the Packers that year, by the way, in the NFC title game. Maybe we should leave on that note.
Trip down
Let's do
memory
it.
lane.
Good question,
like it.
Savannah. Thanks for bringing that
Of
up.
course.
Yeah, absolutely. For Savannah Everson, Mickey Spagnola here, and that was Mick Shots here on DallasCowboys.com.
Go Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club. How about this, guys?